Well, you ready to get going?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. I'll let you lead off on this one. You want?
Well, I love the movie Boomtown. I've always loved it. I've probably seen it 4 or 5 times. I watched it again with my son just night before last, and I just Clark Gable is maybe one of my 2 or 3 top favorite actors, and this is a movie where he's just fantastic, I think. I mean, nobody can deliver the dialogue. I love all that old 1930s dialogue, make it snappy and all that stuff. My dad used to say all that stuff. And I thought it was a wonderful story, a love story, a sad love story, really, because one character is, unrequited love for the main female or the female lead, and yet they're buddies. And there's so much in this movie. I don't know. I don't know where you want to start.
I don't know. I was just agreeing with you. Gable was just, he can pop those lines off and that kind of grin he's got going. I was just watching a bit of The Misfits the other day.
Oh,
his last film, and it's just so good.
Oh, there are some scenes he delivers. There are some scenes in that movie that break your heart.
Yeah. I don't want to go off on a bad tangent, but I had to buy Gone with the Wind before it disappears from last night. I bought that before it disappears from our society forever.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? I mean, you can still see. In fact, iTunes has just put it up with its featured selection. So Netflix removes it and iTunes features it. So
yeah, because they're selling it, right?
thank God for that.
Yeah. Great. Anyway, so now I'm drawing a blank. Is Spencer Tracy.
Right.
I couldn't decide if I liked him as a real tough guy, I was real, he was a tough scrapper. I could see him as Father Flanagan, maybe, but not so much punching it out in the bar and intimidating people, because I always thought he was a little shorter and stuff.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I guess I can see that. I just, I bought the character.
Yeah.
And, I mean, these old movies, they just can't help but be corny when they're hitting those 3 guys and the guys are sliding along the floor. And they got a contest at who can hit them the furthest along the floor. I mean,
yeah.
You don't see that in movies today. It's just people were corny, and yet they pulled it off.
It's a different time, because I do a lot of the film noir stuff, and it was kind of interesting thinking about this movie in terms of where it was coming out of the Great Depression. Because they were just maybe just starting to gear up again in 40, getting ready for the war and everything.
But this movie was shot in 39, so it was really before the gear up started. It was, and 39, if I remember correctly, might have been the worst year of the Depression.
Because it had slumped back in, right? After it had gotten worse again. Yeah, and I was thinking about that in terms of there's still opportunities out there, but you might end up on the bottom again and can be back on top, and kind of putting it in the context of time and coming off of Andy Hardy and all that stuff into this, you can make it if you work hard enough and you get lucky. But you're probably going to blow it anyway. So I thought that was real interesting. Yeah,
it's I love the sense of the indomitable American spirit. It's another version of the pioneers in a way. These wildcatters, they go out on their own and gamble everything, and sometimes they hit it, sometimes they don't. Just like you say, they hit it and then they blow it.
Blow it all the way. Put her down, Clancy. She's pumping mud, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's just a great feeling, and I think it's the kind of a sense that the movie wanted to take to the audience, that even when you're down, you're just maybe a few steps away from being back up again. So it's a hopeful movie.
Yeah, it really is. And it all comes back together. And I really, I assume you're a big Claudette Colbert fan, too.
I like her a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
You picked two movies with her and Gable, the only two they made together. Or I guess, the only two they made together. And then,
but they didn't give her much to do, and I think that's interesting because, again, you're pre-World War II. So if you look at the two women, the two female characters, you see women who are not yet out on their own. You know, they're not. Both women depend heavily on men. One is a stay-at-home wife who devotes her whole life, drags herself around the world, couldn't be happier to live in some little dump in South America just because she's with her man. And then you got the Hedy Lamarr character who's also in love with Clark Gable, but she's on her own, and yet she too is dependent on men. She's got to hang out and listen to gossip and sell her sell what she hears in order to get her maintain her relationships and her financial wherewithal. So it's interesting because just 2 more years and these women are probably going to be working in munitions factories like my mother. My mom and dad met in a ammunition factory in St. Paul, Minnesota. So, all of a sudden you got women liberating themselves through World War II because the men were all gone.
And did you think they were doing a little homage to, it happened one night when she was washing the clothes I think they were still in Oklahoma. She was washing the clothes and he was washing the clothes and they were happy back and forth in their little shack. Kind of was like when they were living on the road in that other movie.
Except when they were living on the road in the other movie, there was constant conflict between the two. And in this case, they were in harmony. They were both happy. They were both pursuing a dream.
Right, Right.
Both those movies are great, though. I'd watch them again anytime.
Yeah, this is really the first time. A lot of times I'll say I've never seen a movie, and then I start watching it, and I'll go, "Oh yeah, I know this movie." And this was really the first time I've ever seen this movie. And that's pretty rare because I've watched a lot of late night movies, and so this was all fresh to me this time.
It's it's interesting how they. I mean, it's just not credible, but it's interesting how they managed to do it. Clark Gable meets Claudette Colbert one evening, and by the next morning they're married. Off they go to a rodeo, and then they get married.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that kind of stuff was happening, a couple of years later when the war, got going.
Yeah.
People were, accelerating the time.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that was married his buddy's girl, or what his buddy thought was his girl.
Yeah.
And so I know there were a lot. Oh yeah, the other actors and Hedy Lamarr. That's Hedley. I kept thinking of Blazing Saddles every time I saw her.
Yeah.
But she was an interesting, I guess, with the accent and the high society, and she was kind of different to this whole movie that brought him into the cosmopolitan side from was it Burke Bank or something, Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Something
like that, yeah.
Yeah. And but I like Frank Morgan in there, the old Wizard of Oz was good.
He's always great. And he's always the same.
I watched him in Shop Around the Corner with Jimmy Stewart and everything. And it's a little Christmas movie where they're in like Bucharest and Christmas time, and Jimmy Stewart's in love with this he's in love with his correspondent, male pen pal, and it's the same girl that he works in the store with, and neither one of them know it.
Oh yeah, I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Actually, they You've Got Mail is a remake of it.
Oh.
And that's why her store, the lady's store in that movie is called Shop Around the Corner.
Okay.
The shop around the corner from that other movie.
I got to check that out again. It's been a while. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Yeah, he was good. And then I'm looking at the list here. Lionel Atwill, he's always a good guy from the Frankenstein movies.
He was the oil guy from New York, right?
Yeah, Harry Compton. That was the one that Lionel Atwill lost his career because he got busted in some crazy sex party, which basically just consisted of like drunken nudity at this time, but it ruined his career and probably wouldn't get a Disturbing the Peace nowadays.
No, he'd probably make his career nowadays.
Yeah. They make a tape.
Party.
But he was always good. He's really good in, I think he's the main inspector in Son of Frankenstein, the one that has he has a wooden arm that they spoof in Young Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah.
Putting the darts in his arm.
Yeah.
He's so good in that one. And when Chili Wills popped up.
Man, he's everywhere, isn't he, in those movies?
He's great, though. And I thought when I first heard the voice, I thought it was the other one. What's that guy's name? Oh, Slim. I thought it was Slim Pickens when I first heard the voice.
Yeah.
Because he looked so young, and then I realized it was Chili Wills.
One of my favorite Laurel and Hardy movies, Way Out West, has a sequence where they walk up to this saloon, and there are 4 or 5 guys playing music and singing on the porch, and then Laurel and Hardy do this wonderful little dance. And Chill Wills is the main singer in this group. He looks like he's about 19 years old.
Yeah.
But he's got a really good voice. He sings pretty well. But he's everywhere in these movies. The endless sidekick.
Yeah. I think his dad said he was born on the hottest day in Texas ever. He got his first name.
What was that?
He was born on the hottest day in Texas ever.
Oh,
that's why Chili. July 18th in Seagoville, Texas. Seagoville, Texas. There was a few other people stuck in there, Marion Martin. She was the Madam, from Three Musketeers. From The Man in the Iron Mask. She was Madame de la Villeray.
Oh, is that the blonde whitey?
Yeah, the good-looking saloon girl. And her, I was reading about her, and they said her family was really rich and went completely bust in the '29 stock crash, and that's how she ended up in movies, because she had to work after that. But she'd been to like the top schools and everything. And she ends up playing, just a floozy everywhere. They kind of typed her into it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was good in that, too. But that, too, is a style. You don't, in another 10 years, or maybe even less, you wouldn't see that particular feminine look featured in the same kind of role. It would have taken on a little harder edge, I think, a little sharper edge.
Lead more to the femme fatales. That's kind of the remnants of the Mae West, the last of the Mae West.
Yes.
Yeah. And I know there was a lot of people stuck in here. His secretary when he was in New York, Sarah Hayden.
She looked familiar. I don't know where I'd seen her before.
She was in Shop Around the Corner, The Bishop's Wife. Those kind of things that playing that same little I'm your secretary, and just a little short bit. Frank McGlynn Sr., he was in Captain Blood. He was one of the reverends in Captain Blood. He was him and the lady were trying to pick up Claudette Colbert when she first came to town.
Yeah, the reverend or whatever they call him.
Yeah, the deacon. And so there were just all kinds of people stuck in this movie. There was a big cast.
Yeah.
And that's just a quick, Frank Phelan's always one of my favorites. He was just a guy at the dice table.
Right.
Just popped up for a second. And he was I know him because he's the guy that gave Fred Derry a job at the end of The Best Years of Our Lives, working as the junk man.
Yes, right. Yeah. Boy, there's another great movie. I love that movie.
Oh yeah, that is a great movie. I mean, just that's top 5, I think.
You've reviewed that already, correct?
Yeah, it's been a way back, but yeah,
I probably listened to it. So
yeah, some of them just some of those movies are so great like that. The Best Years of Our Life. You can't really riff on it, and what I mean. I'm not trying to knock anything off of it. And then all you're saying then is like, I love this movie. This movie's great. I love this when they did this. I love that. So, so the better the movie, the harder it is to do anything. So,
again, this movie is one of those examples of how tight the writing can be, how much ground they cover, and how well they do the transitions that move you along. It's, it would be good to just sit there and watch it and analyze it for the movement, the passage of time and the way they handle it. Like I said, they meet late one afternoon or early one evening when she gets off a bus, and by the next morning they've been to a rodeo and they've had dinner and they've had a night and they've gotten married, and whoops, here comes her John Sand, the partner. I mean, so much happens, but it's tight. They don't waste any dialogue. When she comes down off that staircase and he says, I make my mind up fast, something like that.
Yeah,
Next morning, they're married.
Wow. Yeah, that was quick, I mean, I just thought that they, at first, like, they spent the night together, and they'd already taken care of it. They'd already taken care of the production code.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing there. Like I was going to say something about the I read some reviews of this, and a lot of people were panning it when they went back east. See, they didn't like the tone of the movie, and it drug on too long. But I thought it was a good I think it pulled the whole story together, and then putting them back basically where they started at.
I think what they're exploring there is Big John's ambition and his ability, because he goes up against the powers in the East. And during the Depression, the banks are the enemy, and everything in the East it symbolizes that. The Eastern establishment, the sort of accents of those characters, and it's Big John, the common man, up against the establishment, and he takes him down. He bankrupts him, and then they wind up sicking the government on him.
Yeah,
and I love that line where Spencer Tracy says, if a man like McMasters can't go out and, I don't know what he says, make $1 million with his hands and his mind, then we better think twice about this America, the land of opportunity stuff.
That kind of struck me too, is because Spencer Tracy did that kind of a oil conservation speech there at the end of that,
Yeah.
He's trying to make this oil sustainable so it'll last,
Right.
And, no, I don't think anybody was thinking about running out of oil back then too much.
I mean, of course, that scene leads to another great Clark Gable line delivered impeccably. He says, he's got a lot of ham in him, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly, because he didn't really defend him for what he did. He just kind of made a speech.
And he even said he doesn't realize what he's doing, but he's saving oil, and that's the lifeblood of our country.
Yeah. And I'm sure you're familiar with that, what was it, Kettle Mountain field?
Kettleman, yeah.
Kettleman Mountain was the biggest oil strike. I had to look that up because, I have no idea what that was.
Yeah.
I figured it was something like that when I saw it. But, so the all around, I think it was a pretty good movie, I feel pretty good about watching it, and a lot of good characters, and the ups and downs, it's kind of like Spencer Tracy. You felt sorry for him when after she tried to kill herself and was telling him he didn't know what it was like to be in love with somebody that didn't love him back,
Yeah.
Kind of got the feeling, down for Spencer Tracy.
Yeah.
And these guys had a lot of pride, too, that kept them from making a lot of money. Their pride was holding them back.
Yeah, they stood on their principles, and I mean, flip a coin and winner take all.
Right.
It's just
with 2 out of 3 here.
I mean, talk about setting the stakes. Over and over in that movie, they set the stakes. You know, it's winner take all. It's boom or bust, and they're Americans, so they've got the heart, they've got the courage, they've got the ability. Right. What's a little failure? You know, the success is just over the next hill.
Right, and they got the break early on when the sheriff Chill Will came out there after them. You know, they would have been dead or in prison if they hadn't got away in that car.
Yeah.
You know, so they not only did they have the ability and the opportunity, they had some luck too that threw them in. You know, so all these things, I know that luck's nothing but the residue of good planning, but it helps.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, it's. I think it's one of the all-time best buddy movies, with a romance right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody loves everybody, and somehow it all works out.
Did they need the romance to do the buddies that keep coming in and out? I mean, it almost could have been made without that.
I don't know. I don't think it would have been as interesting, because the kind of sacrifice that was required of John Sand, Square John, Spencer Tracy, was the stakes for him were always higher because of his love for, forget her name now, Betsy.
Betsy. Yeah.
And without that, it would have been, I think, a less interesting movie.
Yeah.
Shorter, though.
A lot shorter. I looked up some, just like a pivotal scene to me. It's when they fought that fire at the oil well.
Yeah.
Right before they had the big fight and everything. But that was just beautifully shot and done, you know, where they, wrapping up with rags and watering themselves down, the same thing. And of course, you saw the other version of it in Hellfighters, 1968, with John Wayne. And I had to look it up because I'd watched it one time. There's a movie called Blackmail, 1939. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it has Edward G. Robinson. And it says, John Ingram, successful oil field fighter, is really a chain gang escapee. And it's a pretty good movie about a guy. He escapes from the chain gang, gets out, and it's called Blackmail in 1939. And he gets out in California, I think it's California, and he starts fighting fires.
Gotta look it up. Gotta watch it.
Yeah. So it's like there's a few of them. I mean, there's a good history of these wildcatter movies, I don't remember what it's called, but it's, remember James Stewart's down there and they're working the oil fields off of Louisiana. I think maybe it's an FBI movie down there. And the Giant, of course, where James Dean brings in. Yeah. And then there's, of course, in Treasure of the Sierra Madres, they're out there doing wildcat work down in Mexico, trying to get a break.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah. So, I guess anybody, Uncle Jed or anybody can strike oil, and then you've got it made, So it's kind of our Frederick Jackson Turner. Are you familiar with that historian?
Yeah, the American frontier guy.
Frontier, yeah. So that's like our frontier. You can always go out there. You can just have oil beneath your feet, maybe, and if it doesn't work, you can keep going till you find it, and then down to South America. So I think it was a very aspirational movie about the American spirit.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's when I watch these movies and enjoy them so much, I forget that I've left all of this behind. I mean, you get caught up in modern movies today, and there's so much more backstory and character development, and it's just not as much fun in most cases, except for certain directors, the Coen brothers maybe, and and Tarantino maybe, but to go back and watch these kinds of actors. I mean, what Clark Gable made, was it 31 movies in 30 years? Something like that. I mean, this guy just kept making movies, and in every movie he was fantastic. And the movies are, like I said, they're so tight, and they're not afraid to cover a lot of ground, a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
And the writing, and there's something about them. The Best Days of Our Lives, the one you mentioned, that's another heartbreaking movie. There are moments in there that just crush you. But this one, I feel like, is all upbeat. It's like It Happened One Night. It's all upbeat. It's a hopeful movie, and it celebrates the common man and the American spirit and hope. It's just it's a perfect Depression movie.
Right. And we touched on this before. In a couple of years, a year or two after this kind of movie's gone. This movie's important because of where it falls in American history.
Right.
And it just is I like these ones that are bridges between two eras. And pretty soon, everything's different because of the war and other things.
Well, and of course, during the Depression, you had other kinds of movies. I mean, you could contrast this against The Grapes of Wrath, where while it's hopeful, essentially there's nothing in the movie that shows a conquest of your circumstances.
No,
it's a sort of a dedication of the spirit without the evidence of success.
Right.
And it's a sort of a we shall overcome versus we're going to strike it rich. Right. And both those types of movies disappeared in another 2 years.
Yeah. Well, Grapes of Wrath, which is, I can't say anything bad about that movie at all, except, the ending's lighter in the movie than it was in the book. It's a lot darker in the book. But that movie, they almost got, run out of town as communists for making that movie. So there weren't very many of that type,
Yeah.
They paid a price for making that movie, and then there were a lot of cuts that had to be made to it.
Well, that was a struggle back then. I mean, if the country was ever going to go communist, it was then.
Yeah, the 50 state experiment, I guess 48 state experiment then, where everybody, and then you had one of the guy in Louisiana.
Huey Long.
Huey Long, yeah, kind of experimenting way out there, with socialism here, communism there. It was getting kind of.
He was the Bernie Sanders of his day.
Yeah,
and more extreme maybe, although not really. Pretty damned extreme.
Yeah, and he would back it up with pretty harsh, but you still cross the Huey P. Long Bridge down there when you go over the Mississippi in the one direction. So he built some stuff. That the fiction movie based on that is All the President's Men. All the King's Men. Yeah, and that's another great movie, All the King's Men.
Trying to remember the actor that played him.
It's Broderick Crawford.
It was Broderick Crawford. Oh, and I was thinking of a different guy. Yes, Broderick Crawford.
Broderick Crawford, and there was John Derrick was his son.
Oh, yeah. And
what was Cherry Valance, whatever that guy's name is. Valentine?
John Ireland?
Yeah, John Ireland was the reporter.
Cherry Valance, is that from Red River?
Red River.
Yeah. Okay. We got a lot of movie references going here.
Yeah. Try to throw them in.
Yeah.
But, so what else were we talking about on this movie? Talked about its significance and its characters, the related movies. It was nominated, too, for Best Cinematography, Black and White.
I was going to say something about that scene where they were fighting the wildfire.
Yeah.
They didn't have computer generated graphics back then, so I don't know how they pulled that off, but man, that looks so real.
Yeah. When the fire blew back on them and they had to roll over to get out of the way and stuff.
I mean, that was pretty realistic. I thought, how the hell did they pull this off?
I'm sure that's why they got nominated, for the best cinematography for that part right in there, because everything else was good. There was nothing wrong with everything else, but that was like when I got excited during this movie, is watching that scene.
Yeah. Yeah, and back then we could still think about oil as the lifeblood of the country, and it sure was. It always has been. It still is.
Ever since the whale oil ran out, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, we still. That's it. Well, what else have we got on here? And do you know much about Hedy Lamarr?
I remember that she invented. I was trying to think whether it was radar or sonar. She invented some kind of technology that was crucial to the defense effort.
Yeah, and she donated it to the country, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
It's something I know because it's still in Bluetooth. It's still part of the Bluetooth, but I don't know exactly what it does. But it's something had to do with a way to transmit data really fast.
There's a biography of her that I keep thinking I might read because of that. An actress that is somehow a technology creator is interesting to me, and I might pick up that book. I think I might have mentioned to you before that there's a really good biography of Clark Gable. It's probably 15 years old now, but I remember reading it and reading about his humble beginnings in Ohio and how he sort of married his way up the movie chain until he became a big star.
See, his first what was this? Carole Lombard, was that his first wife?
No. That was maybe his third wife. His first wife was an older woman who was connected to the theater somehow, and she sort of groomed him and connected him with opportunities. And as soon as he started to get some momentum, he divorced her and married another woman who was wealthy. I think he was married to her only for a couple of years, but once again, advanced his career. Okay. Carole Lombard, he married in 38 or 30, something, 37.
39.
Okay, that was the love of his life, supposedly.
And she's the one.
They ran off and got married in Kingman, Arizona, of all places. And
that's interesting.
Drive through Kingman, their claim to fame is Andy Devine. There's an Andy Devine Boulevard. And
oh, yeah. So I was talking to somebody on Twitter about that, and they went to Andy Devine Park or something there.
Yeah, and, Kingman's big on Andy Devine.
Oh, I like Andy Devine. I was reading, what was the one? Stagecoach. Ford was yelling at him and told him that, he was going to replace him with somebody else. And he's like, you can't replace me because that guy can't drive a 16 coach, So the actor had to really be able to handle the equipment. Yeah, so Carole Lombard is the one that died in the plane crash, right?
Right. She caught a plane out of Vegas, headed back to L.A., and it flew right into a mountain.
Wow. Yeah, that's good. That's tough.
Yeah, and, she was on a war bonds tour.
And that's when he joined the military after that, right?
Yeah, that's the other interesting thing about these actors. World War II, a whole lot of them signed up and were in combat. I mean, Gable flew bombing missions I think he was a gunner on a bomber.
Yeah. And
James Stewart was a pilot and flew something like 40-some missions.
Yeah, they really, a few of them really got into it, and they really did their bit. I mean, to be Clark Gable and fly missions over Germany, I think they had a $5 million reward out, or the equivalent of $5 million reward if you could bring that plane down.
Wow.
For the Germans. And,
well, a lot of those planes went down too. That was hazardous duty.
It was not. Yeah, to try and get 25 missions. Would that take until 43 or something until they could get a plane that had 25 missions? Wow. So Memphis Belle made it, and the only one that didn't was old John Wayne.
Yeah, John Wayne, the ultimate patriot, managed to
skip that one.
Avoid it.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I did one Oh, in harm's way. And I was just going and like giving, Tom Tyrone, 4 years in the Navy during World War II in the Pacific. And I was just going down the list and just, 90% of the males were in. And in it for real, not special services at all.
No, they were doing the real deal. I'm trying to remember if Kirk Douglas. It seems to me Kirk Douglas was in too, but I don't remember which branch of the service. You mentioned In Harm's Way, and another movie that I like, although one of my least favorite actors or actresses is Patricia Neal. I think she's one of the ultimate ham bones, but
yeah, she's pretty tough.
Yeah,
I think she does pretty good in that one. I think
not too bad. Yeah, but that's a movie I like. That's a good one. Burgess Meredith. And have you reviewed that one?
Yeah, way back. But that's why I was doing like a military spoof on it. Like he was in, but John Wayne wasn't, and he was in, but John Wayne wasn't. And like what's the other guy? Not Posey. I'm thinking of a little town in Collins, Mississippi, north of where I grew up, and he played Fred Derry in Best Years of Our Lives.
You're thinking of Dana Andrews?
Dana Andrews was from a little town called Collins, Mississippi.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his brother is Steve Forrest.
Right.
Yeah, and Steve Forrest was in, but Dana was never in. Just like a couple of years difference is all it made.
Yeah.
Whether they were in or not, but that's pretty amazing.
That was an experience that we missed, and not that I'm unhappy that we missed it, but when everybody wanted to put on a uniform, I mean, it was a crusade, and I was thinking last Saturday, was it the first D-Day in my life that I can remember where D-Day wasn't featured in the front page of the newspapers, and
it was kind of quiet after the 75th. It got quiet. I guess it won't be there until it hits another round number again. At 100,
But I mean, it's every year, no matter what. On D-Day, they would have a picture. They would, it was remembered. This year, I don't know about you, but I just didn't see it anywhere. It was eclipsed by what's going on, and I think it's kind of pitiful. But
I think that because there's usually like movie marathons and everything, but I think that Americans love the big round numbers. Like 100,000 dead of coronavirus. We won't care again until it hits 200,000. 125 doesn't mean anything. So you do that big 75, and then it's just cooling off, and then you won't hear. It'll just fade until we get close to 100. I won't see it, but close to 100, and then it'll be a big deal once again.
Be optimistic, John. New technology.
New technology. Yeah, right. They better hook it up now.
You'll be a robot. Your brain will be transferred into a mechanistic organism.
Yeah. I love reading those science fiction books about being uploaded into the thing. They made a because being trapped at home, desperate to watch stuff. So I've been watching stuff I would never watch. And there's this one on Netflix. It's not very good, but the guy's girlfriend committed him to this afterlife facility. And so he's been virtually uploaded, but he doesn't have any money to buy anything unless she gives it to him. She's still alive. She's got him controlled. And so, like, if he runs out of gigabytes or something, he has to go sit in a room until the next month comes and he gets his 2 gigabytes back. And so
my daughter recommended that to me. Are you recommending it, or are you just commenting?
It was okay. I mean, it's all right. It's made for a real younger crowd.
Yeah.
And it's okay. If you're trapped long enough, it's probably better than the Tiger King or something.
Well, I have discovered the Vikings, and I have been living in the Vikings for the last 3 weeks. So
yeah, we watched that in real time. So.
Oh man.
But I guess it's still on. It's coming back on, but it's like some of the good characters are gone. And we just watched The Last Kingdom.
Oh, I love that. I've read
Yeah.
all those books. I read everything Bernard Cornwell has ever written, and I love The Last Kingdom. But I have to say, I think The Vikings is better.
Really? Well, it is when Ragnar's alive.
Yeah, I miss Ragnar.
Right. Yeah, he's a cool guy, in Lagatha. So
Yeah.
I mean, it was not the like there.
Yeah,
exactly. And then Rollo, who was I guess he was the
brother,
grandfather of William the Conqueror.
Oh, he was.
Yeah.
That I didn't know.
Yeah.
Well, Viking stock, I guess, huh?
It's one of my favorite stories because the Vikings attacked France and they gave them Normandy, which is Norse man land, right? And that's where William the Conqueror came from. And then when we had to invade France, we went right back to Normandy. I think it's like why we study history and he's looking for these loops and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, The Last Kingdom's pretty good. In The Last Kingdom, during the season in which Alfred dies, mm-hmm. that last sequence between Alfred and Uhtred, I think, is one of the most beautifully written sequences I've ever seen in a movie or a series. It's so moving, so touching. The acting by the Alfred character is beautiful. I'd go back and watch it over and over again. It's very high quality stuff.
That Alfred, he had the Crohn's disease probably, and the actor that played him looked like he was going to die at any minute. The whole time. Did a great job. Did a real great job, and of course, we got the iPad out. So is that true? Did that battle happen? Was this guy there? Just fact checking everything. It's fairly close.
Yeah. Well, Cornwell's good with that. His historical fiction. If you've ever read the series, the Richard Sharp series on the Napoleonic Wars, fantastic stuff.
No, I hadn't. I've got the only thing I'm trying to read right now is Another Face, the Sam Fuller autobiography. He's the Big Red One. He wrote the Big Red One and a bunch of film noirs and a whole bunch of movies, and it goes through his whole life and just his World War II experiences. Where he was he'd been a reporter since he was 13 years old, and they tried to put him in the press corps as a lieutenant, and he chose to be a private in the infantry because he was trying to get research for his next book. And he said 1,000 times he probably regretted that decision, laying in the mud somewhere, And it's really, because he was in the Africa invasion, Torch. He was in Sicily, Italy, and DDay.
Man, he had some bad ones.
yeah, he was.
I mean, the North African invasion is probably the easiest one he had on that list.
Right. And just it was a true, they made, the Big Red One is largely based on his autobiography. I mean, he wrote it, but the events mostly really happened.
The Big Red One, is that with Lee Marvin?
Mm-hmm, right.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Good movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Especially since, mostly true.
Yeah.
They made it kind of on the cheap, I think, with 5 guys or 6 guys. It was never like a division of soldiers or no CGI troops. The other one
Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. You said you liked.
I was going to say, I wonder if the movie Fury with Brad Pitt was a sort of harken back to that Big Red One concept. The tank crew.
Just out by themselves.
Yeah, but no big.
Well, that makes me think then of Sahara with Humphrey Bogart, where they have the one tank and it has one ally from. They have one ally from basically each branch. They have a British African guy, and they have an Italian prisoner and a German prisoner and a couple of British guys, and they are defending this water hole against the Germans.
It's been a while since I've seen that. I don't remember it well.
Oh, you need to watch it again because it's fantastic. Yeah. It's all like America, and the thing is they're out there by themselves and they don't have radio contact and they have no hope of getting. It's got Dan Duryea in it too, I believe.
Oh, I like Dan Duryea.
Getting relief, and all they can do is slow this German column down by keeping them from the water hole for a while. It's real good.
Man, you've given me about 3 movies I've got to watch here.
Oh, I meant to tell you that there's that Hedy Lamarr. The documentary is on Netflix or Prime, one of those. You don't have to read the book if you want to just watch the documentary.
That's right. Now, I just remembered that. I saw that listed. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll do that.
Yeah, so there's a lot. I mean, a lot we can go off of this movie. But all in all, I think it was a good movie, well worth the look.
Oh, it's fun. I don't think it ever bogs down, and of course Clark Gable, just he's worth every minute of screen time you can get. It's you mentioned The Misfits, which was his last movie, but just before he made The Misfits, I think he made a movie with Doris Day called Teacher's Pet.
Oh, I love that movie.
Oh, so do I. That movie is so much fun, and he, who knew he could do comedy, and yet he does. He's great in the movie.
When they're each one's paying the waiter to put more alcohol in the other guy's drink.
Yeah,
and some of the lines in there. Of course, Doris Day's great in that movie when she does she's mocking the stripper or doing the dance.
Yeah.
I mean, she's just pretty awesome in there too. But I was going to ask you if you'd watched another one of his, which is, I like it. It's not really a great movie. It's called Band of Angels. It's Yvonne DiCarlo doesn't know it, but she's the daughter of a slave, her father and a slave, and so when he dies, although she's been educated and everything, is engaged to a preacher, they sell her as a slave. And she ends up down in New Orleans where Clark Gable buys her. And Clark Gable has Sidney Poitier that he is raised and educated. And then it goes up to the Civil War. And it's just, to me, it's a really good movie. But he didn't like it. He called it his... cheap Gone with the Wind or his bad Gone with the Wind, and it was panned by the critics. But I like it. It's got some really good stuff in it.
I'll check if I can find it. I'll watch that maybe tonight. That sounds really good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. And good love story.
I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's Manhattan. Oh, gosh. William Powell, and I think Myrna Loy, and Clark Gable. It's not that great a movie, frankly. I mean, the key action in the movie that triggers the ending is, to me, kind of not believable. It seems like a choice the character wouldn't actually make. But in any event, it's a movie that supposedly John Dillinger watched when he was in that movie theater the night he was shot.
Okay.
And in the oh man,
the woman in red one.
Yeah, but the movie is the Johnny Depp version of the Dillinger story. Michael Mann's Public Enemies.
Okay.
They've got Johnny Depp in that theater watching the Clark Gable character, and he's being led to the execution chamber, and other prisoners are wishing him well, and the line is, "Die like you live, all of a sudden."
Yeah.
It's a great line, and I don't think anybody could land it like Gable on his way to being executed.
You don't know what so Gable and Myrna Loy. I don't.
Something like Manhattan Tragedy or Manhattan.
Oh, Manhattan Melodrama.
That's it. Manhattan Melodrama. Yeah.
1934. No, I don't know that one. I have to check it out.
Yeah, it's not that great a movie, but I'd watch the movie again just for that last sequence where Gable is headed to execution and he's just die like you live. All of a sudden, all of a sudden, that's true. You live all of a sudden, and I mean, some of that writing is just fantastic.
So it's kind of like when Gable's not in that one, but The Buccaneer, the 59 or 58 version. When
is that Yul Brynner?
Yul Brynner. Yeah, the Yul Brynner one, and where Charles Boyer is going to be executed, and he's giving this speech about spitting in their eyes, and that's really same thing, kind of, just not being afraid. Well, that's pretty good. You want to wrap it up for today?
Oh, okay. This is fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
I don't know what our next movie will be, but we'll come up with one.
Okay, let me see if I can find one this time and let you know. But I got a new software I'm going to try where actually you can edit the ums and stuff out, and it as a text, and it edits the audio file. So I'm going to try that and see how that works.
Excellent.
But yeah, let's definitely do it again next month. Make it a regular thing.
Good deal. I'll think of some movies, and you think of some movies, and we'll keep it rolling.
All right, that sounds good. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, John. Take it easy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.